So, Hatman and the Shadow People. Sounds like a retro punk band, doesn't it? But anyway, folks, that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about the legend of the Hatman, as well as Shadow People. And that's what's coming up today on Black Lotus. Conspiracy theories, the paranormal, UFOs, aliens, and all things strange and unusual. This is Black Lotus. So let's start off, man. Let's start talking about Hatman. And what Hatman is, it's a term that was coined by Heidi Hollis, who is an author, and she wrote the book The Hatman, The True Story of Evil Encounters, as well as several other books that deal with aliens. And she also has a book out there called Jesus is No Joke, and Pictures and Prayers. So take that for what it is. But anyway, he's just often described as being like over 6 feet tall. And he always wears a hat, whether it's like a fedora or like a top hat. And he has glowing red eyes, and it's thought that some people say that he carries like a gold pocket watch with him. And he often, when he's standing there looking at people, he often looks at the pocket watch as though, well, your time's almost up.
That's pretty
kind
scary.
of thing, And the reason they think that is because they think that, Hatman may just be a demon to usher people to hell, or maybe some people say that he's the devil himself.
That's pretty scary.
Yeah. I suppose that depends on whether or not you believe in, the devil, but I don't know. But so I don't know. What do you think about that?
I've seen enough scary things and things out of the corner of my eye to think there might be something about it. Mm-hmm. But whether they're evil or not, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between a ghost and a Hatman or a shadow person?
Well, I don't know. I think maybe there is. And I don't want to. I kind of want to differentiate the Hatman to shadow people, because I don't think they're one and the same, because like shadow people are just they're shadowy images. I mean, literally they're shadows, and they may have like glowing eyes or something like that, but otherwise they're undefinable. But Hatman, I mean, people will say, he's a dark image, but he has some definition to him. Like, for instance, they say he wears a trench coat and he carries a gold pocket watch. You never hear stories like that about the shadow people. But
they're usually just all shadow.
Yeah. Now, whether or not Hatman is an interdimensional being, I don't know. Maybe. Could be, I guess. But I think the real question here is, what is this thing? And, I mean, it's obviously a single thing. Because so many report, so many people report it as being the exact same thing.
Right.
I mean, shadow people are different sizes and different shapes, but Hatman's always pretty much the same.
Same description. It's kind of like the Greys. Everybody has the same image of the Greys.
Yeah.
Hatman is one of the ones that everybody sees the same thing, and a lot of strange things happen. It's usually before bad stuff happens a lot of times.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing, too, is that the Hatman tends to visit people that are going through emotional distress. So oftentimes when a person is in, like, say, an abusive relationship, he'll show up then, and they'll see him just, like, standing at the edge of their bed. And from what I understand, he doesn't do anything to you. He just sits there and watches you.
Right, unlike shadow men.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. But I think another strange thing about this, I had mentioned Slender Man earlier, and sightings of the Hatman occur worldwide. You hear about these sightings about Hatman all over the world, but like Slender Man, that internet sensational thing, whatever it is. I mean, that generally you only hear reports about that in the U.S. and in Canada. But then again, Slender Man's a whole different story.
Right, that was made up by an internet personality that we know it was made up, and written about.
What was the name of that site?
Creepypasta.
Creepypasta, that's it, yeah. But yeah, so that whole thing was made up. But I think that Slender Man, just to touch on that for a minute, I think Slender Man may be one of those situations where people actually bring something into reality. Whether or not it's a bad spirit that has decided to
take that form
because of the popularity of it and because of the belief in it. Like those two girls that were charged with murder over the Hatman thing. And, you know, I mean, they believed it so much.
You know, we're Slender Man.
Yeah, Slender Man, yeah. They believed it so much that, you know, maybe people that like that, they believe it in it so much actually create a reality.
Well, they say that, you know, your thoughts create what is around you, and your energy brings what is around you. So if they're believing in it that bad and they want it to happen, yeah, you probably would see it. Whether they're actually seeing something real or not, in their mind, they've seen it.
Absolutely. I think that might account for a lot of religious beliefs as well, to be honest with you. You know, when people report that they see angels, for instance, and that sort of thing, you know.
Or it could just be a shadow person dressed in white.
Could be. But the other thing, too, is that people who report seeing the Hatman usually start reporting this when they're kids.
Right.
And, you know, I mean, you know how parents can be, you know, oh, you didn't see anything, it's just your imagination. And they bottle it up for years. And then they come out as adults and say, yeah, I saw this and I continue to see it today, but I just don't talk about it anymore because I was shut down, you know. And I think I think it's important not to shut down a child's, quote, imagination, you know. I mean, I think because I think kids are more likely to see something supernatural than we are. And it's not necessarily their imagination. How many kids out there have imaginary friends?
Right.
You know, and I think personally, I think a lot of those instances, now that's not to say they're all like this, but I think a lot of these instances where they report having imaginary friends, they very well could be something from the spirit world.
It's possible. And who's to say that they're not seeing something that we can? They say that children have a higher psychic ability, they see ghosts more, they feel things more. So it's because they're open-minded.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're not so closed off to the so-called reality of the world, you know. So, yeah. But anyway, let's get on with the shadow people thing. And the reason for that is because you had a lot on this, actually.
Well, I don't know if it's a lot. I mean, we've covered a lot of this. There are a lot of similarities between hat people and shadow people. Mm-hmm. Besides what we mentioned, that's not the same. Yes, they do have red eyes once in a while, but most of the time they don't have eyes.
Right, they're just shadows.
They're just shadows. They're generally 6 to 7 feet tall. Also, they're come in different forms. There's like mist, and there's depending on the creature is what they call it. There are a lot of people say now that a mist could be something that's developing into a new spirit, and that's why you only see it as a mist instead of a full shadow man. Mm-hmm. But again, who's to say? We don't know enough about them. One of the things that's strange about them is that they can just walk through walls, walk through objects, stuff like that. Nothing seems to interfere with them.
Right.
So that's why a lot of people think they're interdimensional.
Right. Yeah. I think that may hold some water, actually. You know, I mean, because maybe it's a form in another dimension that hasn't fully materialized here. Right. You know. So.
Well, there's the human-shaped ones, which is of course the most commonly talked about ones. You know, just it's a figure, it's a shadow. Mm-hmm. A lot of people say though it's not just a shadow like on a flat wall. There's dimension to the shadow, but it's not really detailed like in the Hatman, where you say you can see a cloak and clothing and a watch, but you can definitely see that this is more of a round shadowy thing, not just a flat on the wall shadow.
Yeah.
So there is a difference in it. There's the black mass shadow, which is about the same, but the general size of it is a little smaller, and it's more like fuzzy. It's not as defined as a full-fledged shadow person. So you might see like a kind of human-y shape moving out of the corner of your eye, or something that kind of has that humanoid shape to it, but not quite. But there's definitely something there that's moving. Okay. So that would be a black mass. And then there are the demonic ones, of course, with the red eyes that we talked about that are rare. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones you got to really be careful of. And
now, why is that?
Well, because those are the ones that would cause harm. Shadow men are known to get you while you're having sleep paralysis and jump onto your chest and start to choke you.
I think that that's interesting, actually. And the reason being is because, you see these old art depictions of these demons or whatever sitting on somebody's chest in their bed. There's a very famous one. I don't remember who did it, but
can't tell you.
But so I mean, these reports have been coming around forever.
Right.
I mean, this is not a new thing at all. Hatman isn't really new either. They just called it different things. Back when. But
and then of course there's the story of the old hag, which is another form that they possibly take, where it's an old, I think, Denmark legend, if I remember correctly. But it's an old hag that will sit on your chest and take your breath from you.
Is this Baba Yaga?
Baba, yeah, that's
I think that's Russian, actually.
Russian, is it? Okay,
pretty sure.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is Russian, but it takes that form. Also, there's been reports of an alien type shape, more of a thin-armed, thin-necked looking thing.
And I wonder actually how many older reports of shadow people standing by their bed or anything like that were actually aliens. Because I mean, you hear about these alien visitation or abductions, and oftentimes it's when people are in bed experiencing sleep paralysis and they see these things around them, but these in modern times they just describe them as like grays.
Right.
Yeah,
that's possible. I never thought about that, but that's a good explanation of why some of the aliens would be confused as that. But I mean, you see the pictures of people waking up and how they're depicted of just basically a shape of a shadow of something looking at you. It definitely could be alien.
Yeah, almost definitely. Yeah.
But it could be demonic too. It could be, maybe it's a mixture. Maybe there are shadow people and they're aliens.
Yeah, well, I think the alien theory doesn't just apply to this. I think it applies to a lot of things, like the old the fae, like fairies and that kind of thing. Because originally, like for instance, elves were kind of tall and lithe,
Right.
But they've become Keebler elves, little short little things.
Same
live in
with like
trees.
gnomes and orgs and stuff like that were different than they are now. And I could definitely see an alien being confused for one of those type of mythical creatures.
Yeah, especially back then when I mean we didn't have things like science fiction to open our eyes, I guess,
or to blame it on.
Yeah.
Blame your delusions on what you've seen on the screen.
Yeah.
But okay, so there's 4 different types also of motivations for shadow people that are usually associated with them. One of them is the lurking shadow. Now, the lurking shadow is the normal one that you would see. He probably just sits in the corner, maybe peeks out you over from a door. Doesn't really come near you, doesn't really bother you. He might follow you around room to room just to watch what you're doing, but that's basically what he does. He just watches you.
Just kind of observes.
But people are saying you also have to be weary of this because they are so intently watching you. They might have other motives. So they might be just acting like a lurking one, and then you start to trust it, and as soon as you let your guard down, boom, there it is. Now, they seem to attack you when you have mental problems. Depression seems to bring them around more.
Okay.
And chaos in your life. Couldn't think of the word chaos. If that's happening and you see shadow people, be extra careful because those are usually the ones that are bad coming to prey off of you while you're weak.
Now, what do they do when you say prey? What exactly are they
They're the kind that's going to jump on your chest while you're sleeping and try to choke you.
And that kind of thing.
Right, that type of thing. Literally attack you, scratch you, leave bruises.
Are there any reports of people like being yanked out of bed by these things?
Not that I know of. It's one of those things too that they're having a hard time deciding where a spirit ends and where a shadow person begins.
Yeah, because you hear a lot of ghost stories where that happens, or the blankets are pulled off of you, or like we're going to be talking to G.L. Davies, and he wrote a book about sexual encounters with ghosts.
Well, we did the show on that too.
Right.
The show on it. That's where it's hard to decide. Like I said, because some of these, like you're talking about with the blanket, they see a dark figure pulling it off of them. They see the shape sometimes. So is it a shadowman doing it, or is it a ghost?
Some spirit, right.
Who knows?
Yeah. It could be. I mean, that they're not interchangeable at all. It could be that they're a totally separate entity. I think,
it's just like trying to put a Wolfman and Frankenstein as the same monster.
Right.
It doesn't work.
Right.
I think they're similar because of some things, but they're different monsters. So I think you have to take shadow men, aliens, ghosts, and all those and try to separate them.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to do, though. Okay, the other type is visitors, and basically they're people from other dimensions coming and visiting us. Okay. They have things that they have to do. They're the type that every day you'll see something walking down your hallway. It's somebody else from another world walking down your hallway to go do something that they have to do. Has nothing to do with you. They don't care if you're there or not.
I wonder if they even realize that you're there. Again, maybe you're shadow people to them too.
That's what I was wondering. To me, again, back to the spirits, it's like when something dies and they're caught in their energy and they're doing the same thing that they would normally do in their normal lives. To me, it almost has that type of feel to it.
Yeah, right.
So again, where do you draw the line between shadow people and spirits?
And spirits, right.
So, and then there's the haunting figures like we're just talking about, but then there's also the shadows that are omens. They're kind of like the hellhound, where if they show up, they're trying to tell you that death is around. Disaster,
kind of like harbingers.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Those are the ones that I think are kind of interesting because things have happened and people see them and then things go awry in their life.
It's kind of like that old, I think it's Irish legend of the screaming banshee, that whenever you hear a screaming banshee, someone close to you is about to die, So, yeah.
Well, we're talking about that. There was one interesting story I came across while looking through videos and stuff, was a picture of these 3 women. Now, these 3 women are standing in front of a gate. I think we have that picture.
Yeah.
And there is a Hatman definitely sitting behind them. If you notice, there is a hand on the woman on the left's shoulder. Now, supposedly, when this picture was taken, everybody says there was no man in the picture. He doesn't look like he has any type of facial features or anything.
Right,
it's just a dark shadow. The photographer says there was nothing there and nothing was added to the picture. If you look at the grain matches the picture. So how do you explain this type of picture? Yeah. Especially since the lady that he has his hand on died 3 days later in a car crash.
Did she?
Yes.
Really? That's
so I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of these stories out there on the internet. I was looking at tons of pictures and tons of videos and stuff just to see. There's so many videos out there that are just, it could be anything.
Crap.
Right.
Or it's something that's been intentionally superimposed
or photoshopped, or it's just a shadow of something moving. Some of them out there are pretty creepy. There's one where this head pops out from behind a doorway just like that and then goes back up and it's just a silhouette and it's kind of 3D looking, but I could see us faking that so easily.
Yeah.
Especially with things like green screens and now that, are everyday items for people.
Yeah.
I didn't see any. But I came across 3 that I want to talk about real quick because I found them extremely interesting. One is a concert tape, and it's obviously a crowd of people at a concert. It looks like probably the 80s with the way that people are dressed and stuff. And it's just people dancing like this, and you see right here on 2 places, underneath one woman's arm and then next to her a little further down, this actual head shape and 2 red glowing eyes.
Yeah, when I first saw that, my first impression was, well, maybe it's just a reflection of something glinting off the lights or something. But then after watching it a few times, I was like, I don't think so. They look too much like eyes.
Well, it's not only that, it's the way the movement is, because when the lady puts her arm down and puts it up and stuff, you can see there's nothing there it can be reflecting off of except for a person behind them. And the way the person moves, it couldn't be a reflection because it would not stay steady like that. It would move, and it doesn't look like it's photoshopped in.
No, it doesn't. It certainly doesn't look that. But I mean, like I said, and especially back then, you're not going to be able to. The average person couldn't have done that back then. Right. But beyond that, it looks just too natural to have been edited.
It's freaky.
But it is freaky. It's most definitely freaky. But the other one you had shown me was the one of the person running across that stadium at a soccer game.
Yes.
That was weird, and I wish we had the video to show this to you, but we don't. But it shows a shadow running across a stadium, like you know, the seats in a stadium, and nobody is moving to get out of the guy's way, and he's
running fast,
and the thing is running, fast, and so it's like he's running right through him, you know. And so I thought that one was kind of interesting.
Well,
and the other thing, it's one of those films where it's not obvious that that's what they were filming. They were filming the game, and in fact, when you know, if you get a chance to watch this thing, you can see that they're truly trying to film the game. They're following the players along the field. They just happened to catch this as it happened,
right?
You know,
and it's live on TV, so I mean, it's not like somebody edited it and put it in later and then put it back up on television. This was happening live on television.
Right. Yeah, and that's another thing too, live on television, and so, you know, it's a little hard to fake that. But I think that those photos and those videos are the most compelling. I mean, even with like alien films or videos, Bigfoot videos and stuff like that, when they're filming something else and then something happens, that's a lot more compelling than, ooh, here, look what I saw.
For 2 seconds.
For 2 seconds.
Right. This follows the thing all the way across the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually cuts away from it as it's following the game. And that's the only reason it cuts away. It's not like, ooh, look at this, move. Ooh, look at this.
Right. It's almost as though the whoever took the film didn't even realize that it was there, you know, and just probably exactly just saw it later, you know.
And there's the same with the other one I showed you. There's a fight going on at a boxing ring, and you see a shadow go across
right under the ropes,
right under the ropes. So it's right next to where the ring would be, between the first seats in the ring, but it kind of like almost looks like it's going through people. It's very odd. And another one, live TV.
Yeah. But as I said, I mean, there's been reports historically of shadow people, really, but it didn't really gain any modern popularity until April of 2001, when there was a guy on the Art Bell show, Coast to Coast AM, back when he had the show instead of George Norrie, and they were talking about it then, and suddenly from there was a huge blow up among popular culture about shadow people, and everybody started coming out with saying, "I've seen one. I have one that lives with me. You know, this and that." And so yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. And another thing that I think is interesting is a lot of reports. Now take this for what you'd like, but a lot of reports of shadow people come from people who are experiencing sleep deprivation, and a lot of these people happen to be meth addicts. So yeah, I don't know. Take it for what it's worth, I guess, you know.
You're talking about the Art Bell show. He had on the Native American elder Thunderstrikes is who he had on.
Okay, that's right. Yeah. I remember the guy was Native American. I can remember.
Yeah,
his
he was
name.
talking about how basically they have a witch called the Raven Mocker.
Okay.
Who is very similar to the Hatman, who comes at your time of death and takes your soul.
Okay.
Or takes your breath, your heart. So I thought that was interesting too. Now, if you want a chance of seeing a shadow person yourself, you can go online and see one possibly.
How's that?
Well, there is a library called the Willard Library, and that is in Indiana, Evansville. Now, they have a haunting there of a veiled gray ghost lady. But not only that, they have a lot of shadow people that seem to pop up and people see.
Okay.
So they've installed cameras. So there's 3 live cams 24 hours a day on this. And you can go there and watch. And if you see something, you can click on that cam and it saves it. And
really?
Reports it. And they have images of hundreds up to thousands of images that people have clicked. And I looked at some of these images and they're crazy, some of them. It's like, 2 a.m. and you can see somebody walking up the stairs.
I'm going to have to drop a link in the description for this. What's the name of it again?
It's the Willard Library.
And is it willardlibrary.com or what?
I believe so.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly, but I found that very interesting, and I found also myself sitting there watching the cams for a little while.
Again, where's the library located?
It is in Evansville, Indiana.
Okay.
They also say sometimes you'll smell the lady's perfume, which seems to go along with ghosts too.
Yeah.
But there's definitely some shadow people there. In fact, the thumbnail, that is a picture that was captured from this place, from one of the camps. And I think that picture is pretty creepy.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's, I mean, libraries are notoriously haunted. I mean, they're like haunted. They're like cemeteries and asylums. It's one of the places where most likely there's a haunting there.
Well, it's also an old Victorian house at this library.
Oh, is it?
It's beautiful.
Is it?
So, of course, Victorian era, that's quite a ways below. I'm sure some people have died in that house.
Yeah, right. I'm going to have to look into that. And definitely I'll drop a link for that. Evansville, Indiana. Huh, interesting. But, yeah, anyway, so we have a shadow person hanging out with us.
Yeah.
We've both seen it.
And cat.
And a cat. Now, I don't know if the cat is an interdimensional shadow person, but this other thing I think is more that than it's a spirit. And we've talked about this before on the show, but here where we live, we have a living room and there's a hallway attached to the living room. And where we see this thing is usually just a blip and out of the corner of our eyes. And it's like I said, it's just a blip. It's just there and it's gone. But it's definitely there. You can see the form of like a taller man. He's a good 6.5 feet tall. Doesn't have a hat on or anything that I've noticed, but it's just a shadow and it just blip, there and gone.
There actually wasn't there a girl that saw it?
Yeah, she didn't see that, but she did see something over near that area by the front door. And this was my stepdaughter's ex-boyfriend. They came over with his I think she was like 5 years old with his daughter, and we were sitting in the dining room having dinner, and she kept kind of like looking toward the front door, and I said, "Sweetheart," I said, what's up? What do you see over there? She said, "There's a man over there." And I said, well, and I looked and I said, I don't see anything, honey. And she says, well, he's there and then he's gone and then he comes back. And I said, okay. I said, well, what I want you to do is close your eyes for a minute and think about something else and then open them up and then look again and tell me if he's there. So she did, and yeah, he was gone. But she told me that it was she actually saw a man standing there, not just a shadow.
Not just a shadow.
But yeah, so I don't. But again, children's eyes.
Right. I was gonna say me might see shadows, but she might see more of something fuller.
The innocence of kids.
I've seen things out of the corner of my eye and hear, that it seems like somebody's standing there, and I look and there's not. And the more I have seen, more of, I swear the cat is sitting somewhere. And I see the cat sitting there, and then the cat comes walking from the other direction. Mm-hmm. And I look back, and there's no cat sitting there.
And meows, too.
And meows coming from other places when the cat's at one end of the house, and all of a sudden you're hearing it coming out of the bedroom. It's kind of strange.
I mean, you could say, okay, what's the acoustics in the house? But, I mean, I remember hearing the cat meow, and I was sitting in the living room, and I hear the cat meow from the other room. And I go, what the hell? And then I look, and the cat is asleep on the couch next to me. So, I mean, that's kind of weird.
And how many times have I seen that cat sitting in the hallway, and yet the cat's in the kitchen or in the living room, and it's like, I walk out and I'm like, well, how are you there? Or I feel it touching my leg.
Yeah. I feel it jumping up on my bed, when I'm in bed. I can feel it. And then, I look, and then cat's nowhere around.
Yeah. I feel like it's, rubbing up against your leg like a cat does. Mm-hmm. And I'll look down to give her a pet, and there's nothing there. And then she'll come walking out from the other side of the area of the house. It's like, wait a minute. So yeah,
I think some weird shit happened to us, don't we? God, all of the UFO stuff and the alien stuff, as well as ghosts and possessed dummy heads. I mean, good God.
All we need is Bigfoot. Come on,
man! I'm telling you, we got to go find a Bigfoot, man. We got to write a book. I'm telling you. But anyway, what do you think we get out of here for the day?
Sounds good.
It was a pretty good show. Anyway, folks, we will be back next time. I'm not sure what we're talking about on Sunday. We were going to talk about JFK, but I think we're going to put that off for a little bit. Maybe wait till the anniversary of the assassination.
Yeah.
But we'll be talking about something interesting. I'm sure we usually do. So anyway, until next time. Keep thinking and question everything. Hey, don't forget to like and subscribe and click that little bell so you can get a reminder every time we upload a new episode.